Welcome everyone back to day 2 of the PMCO Fall Split for the UK 2021 season. My name is Hand Wolf, and of course I'm joined once again by Professor Tarzan. And a little bit of a word to our sponsors here, Nemo TV, the official media partner of PUBG Mobile Pro League in 2021, and also the side of Xiaomi, where you too can enjoy a super fast and lag-free PUBG Mobile experience on Xiaomi's powerful Redmi Note 10 5G. But we have seen one day of powerful action so far, Tarzan, and what a statement teams A and B brung. Albeit some good plays, but a little bit of interesting plays, shall we say.
I'm just going to try to explain it in one word. Shaky. I think it's very fair to say that. We haven't seen any team particularly dominating those who had the chance to have huge games like maybe just on one or two maps. They definitely have balanced it out in the other, so that's not a great way, to play their first day. But you know what? It actually just adds a lot of storyline and means that everyone might be on the same page right now. Everyone a little bit shaky, getting a little bit of that cold feet. So like for today, it will be the first day of play for both groups C and D. So it might be the same, but having the opportunity to watch groups A and B play yesterday, maybe they can show a little bit of a different performance.
Yeah, of course, we saw groups A and B play yesterday, and I think, to be fair, you can kind of blame it a little bit on those first day nerves. You're going to have to see what these teams can bring in today, because although I think what we don't have is the same teams that we saw in spring when it comes to group C and D, there are a lot of new teams, and that's something that's really interesting, because we actually saw yesterday the dethroning of a lot of those top teams that we expected to come in strong.
I think it's also just a different type of style that they bring in. Sometimes we've got the so-called very stabilized tier 1 environment. Sometimes teams are so used to, so conditioned to that way of playing. Like those things can really just catch you off guard when when you're hit by a team that has no experience of that form, but they don't get formatted like their brain that way, so they bring in something new, and so that would be the surprise factor. But before everything, we need to look at the format for today, and that will be a great one to talk about, because after all, they've got something to fight for.
Oh man, in group stage here is where these teams are at. 32 teams going to be competing across these next 5 days remaining of group stage competition, 4 matches per day, of course, and where the top 14 teams ending up at a group stage will progress to join both Gaijin Seraphim and also Rescue in the grand final for the PMCO UK, where only the best team, the top team at the end of those 4 days next week of finals can progress through to take a final PMPL Season 2 spot to represent the UK alongside Lac Nostra MVP and also Nico Defense League.
You know what? Like, I think this format is a little bit brutal, to be fair. Like, when you've got 2 teams already in there, so you have to outperform more than half of the team. So only 14 out of these 32 could progress. But you know what? Like, it's about adaptability. We talk about this term all the time. And this sort of format allows you to exactly do that. Should I say get tested when it comes to that? So we talk about spreadsheets, we talk about preparation, and most importantly, always, bringing out your best suit, knowing your strengths, and then like find a way to keep your mind very, very strong. So we all know how that mood can sometimes just make it so hard for you to bring out your best abilities. But before all of that, once again, points right now, of course, we're no stranger to this point system now with that 15-point chicken dinner. And if you are a very aggressive team, that 1 kill point per kill is going to be extremely important.
Course, so it's 1 kill per points. That's where we really saw a lot of those teams rise up who were not the teams that we expected. I mean, yes, we also saw the highlight of some of those squads that we kind of expected to come up top. If you remember back to those kill points in our first game, yes, they were actually was triple, securing themselves that big 30-point game. Gonna have to see if these squads in Group C and D can confirm them. But as well as the points here, I think that not only is it the kills that matter, but also the consistency that matters when it comes to these teams. A lot of those teams ended up at the top of that leaderboard yesterday were because they were able to consistently grab maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 points, not because they actually had big stellar games.
Yeah, I mean that is just the way the state of the art for the game right now, and we just need to look at how these teams like got these points. Sometimes we talk about the more stats, math side of things about the ratio between your placement points, and kill points, but after all, is how they actually got those points that would really leave an impression on our hearts, and not just ours and the viewers. But let's look at a little bit more graphics to give us a little bit more of should I say guidance like through the day, and because it's definitely guided by something that we are fighting for, not just about qualification. We've got a very good chunk of prize pool as well.
And as well, considering that $4,000 going to go as well as that PMPL spot straight through to represent the UK later on in competition for PUBG Mobile Esports to that top one team. But there is a prize for everyone. Everyone gets something when they compete here in PMCO Fall Split, Tarzan. And even if you fall down in the 17th to 32nd position, you don't make that finals, don't worry, because you can still receive that $500. And I think also, to be fair, this is a much fairer system than what we saw in the spring split, where you had to make those finals. So I think although teams are going to have slightly more competitivity when it comes to getting at PMPL spot, they don't have to worry so much when it comes to earning some cash at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I actually love the fact that if you are 15th and 16th place, you make more than the rest, although you didn't get to qualify, right? So every single point count there, and it's just a system, and we play by the rules and make it, so that it's on your side. Sometimes you read the rules well and then you form tactics according to that, but it shouldn't stop you from showing us the best pet PUBG Mobile that you can play. So that is my hope, as always.
And as well as, of course, these prizes, we also have to take a little bit of a look at the schedule in a minute. Of course, while we wait for the schedule, I just want to break down the group stage as well as the maps, which we will see shortly. And of course, we did see groups A and B yesterday. We will see group C and D today, but don't worry, because every group faces what will be a round robin tournament. So we'll actually see their group A and C do battle in tomorrow, group B and D after on, and then straight after that for the final round, it will be groups A and D versus B and C later on Saturday and Sunday this week. Of course, all at the same times in the same place, which you are watching right now. But to look at those maps shortly, I still, while we wait, want to question here a lot of these teams and how they played on them. And considering that, actually, although we expected Erangel, which is played double the amount of times, it wasn't Erangel that gave us the most surprises.
Yeah, I think when it comes to map order as well, so we should give all of you a bit of a reminder. So we start on Erangel, then we move over to Sanhok, then we have, for the third map of the day, Miramar, and we will wrap up with Erangel. So of course, Erangel being very important, that's almost nothing new in the past competitive season. But to have Sanhok being the second map is actually such a challenge, I feel like. It's not just the fact that A is a very different map, to put it in second. You put it in between two huge maps, and when people just struggle to warm up already, to hit them with that change of playstyle that's required of them is actually a little bit harsh, but I do like it a little bit.
I mean, to be fair, I'm like a mean guy, as I always say, so I love the fact that Sanhok is the second map. I would just quite happily see 4 games of Sanhok every single day. That would suit me, Tarzan. Maybe not so much the entertaining value, but for danger value, it's definitely pretty spicy. But before we head through to a little bit more about the teams, we will head to a quick break where you see just a little bit about our sponsors. Welcome everyone back to the PMCO UK 2021 fall season. And if you are just joining us, we're about to head into the first game. But before all of that, we get to discuss what these teams, who we're going to be seeing down on Erangel to start us off. And we start with Group A and B yesterday, but now we've got Group C and D. And I just want to highlight the fact that Group C, it looks pretty stacked in the sense here, Tarzan, that coming out of it, Conqueror at the very top.
Yeah, Conqueror UK, a team that's packed with experienced players when it comes to previous PMNC, even from the original Optic Gaming squad that represented the UK in last year's PMNC. But this time around, Conqueror UK in the most recent PMNC haven't had the best performance, right? There are certain times that they struggle to send a full squad, to the competition, as well as having some mistakes. I think when it comes to pacing of that tournament, but now this is PMCO considered as a bit of a relatively bigger stage compared to the PMNC. Still, yes. I want to see them playing at their best ability, right? But of course, when it comes to Group C, comparing experiences, showings, and maybe making a household name, we have to talk about Excuse Me, especially with Kosti and Prada in that roster. They played in the PMPL Europe West under Gaijin Seraphim in the past season, and they've been doing quite well. Of course, like Gaijin Seraphim couldn't stay in PMPL so far, but they are still just straight to the finals in this PMCO. As obviously there's some roster changes now that they're not part of that organization, but Prada and Kosti, I believe they will still deliver from this group.
And when you look at PMNC coming out that closing game, Prada and Kosti, they stepped the hell up when it came to that Erangel game, to be fair. And I'm really excited to actually see what Excuse Me can bring, but also what we have in Group D is send straight at the top again, Most Wanted, but also 777 Esports as we do jump into Erangel. I just want to get your idea about these two teams.
You know what, 777 Esports extremely interesting, and I want to see where they drop, because you know why? Because I think there could be some should I say differences between them and Cyrex Esports. The only reason why I'm talking about that is Londa from 777 Esports played under Cyrex Esports when it comes to the most recent PMNC. Of course, we talked about different requirements when it comes to registration and citizenship, but 777 Esports and Londa just go hand in hand. He's just like he will never leave this. I believe it might be his team. So to come in to a competition to face some of the players that he played with in other tournaments, extremely interesting. And nonetheless, they played decently well in the last PMCO, being a finalist in the spring split. So that would be a team to talk about for sure. As a way to get onto the game, it allows us to talk about more teams in Group D.
Oh, yes,
so
for sure.
Most Wanted would be one, and because we've seen them in the most recent PMNC, yes, a bunch of very experienced players, but the style is not the most, most, how should I say, aggressive, but you can see they are slowly finding their way, because especially in that last day Highland Wolf, they got like all the way back to fifth, like in the matter of 2 games, and if they can continue with that momentum from those last games of that tournament, I believe that they can show up, and that experience together with that momentum could do them really, really well in here.
Yeah, of course, Most Wanted stepping up. But before we head through to the rest of Group D, I do have to stop you there because we're going to go for a quick break here, Tarzan, where we remake the lobby and we'll get straight back into Erangel. So don't miss out because we're just starting the action soon. Welcome to the PMCO UK Fall Split 2021 season. My name is Handwall, joined by, of course, Professor Tarzan. We're back from the break. But first, a little bit of a quick word to our sponsor, Xiaomi, where you can enjoy a super fast and lag-free PUBG mobile experience on Xiaomi's powerful Redmi Note 10 5G. But Tarzan, going through into this game, before we see all these powerful teams drop down, I want to also highlight through 777 Esports. Give me a little bit of a taster about them.
You know what? Like, I think they were one of the more consistent teams when I watched them last split in spring. They've got a particular style. They've got one or two things that was very textbook that's required of them in a particular circle or situation. And most of the time, they deliver. So that really leaves that impression. And I would actually draw some parallel between them and the Uncles that played yesterday. But obviously, the Uncles came in with a different roster. So, but 777 haven't has as big as a change when it comes to roster, and they've picked up new players that they believe in, from what I know. So I have some, high hopes for this team.
To be fair as well, they have been a team that have played since the PMNC last year, so they clearly have experience around the UK scene. I also want to highlight, though, for the most recent PMNC, actually a team that we had was Arena 51 Esports. Now, Tarzan, Arena 51 Esports, they came in through maybe not the most flashiest of performances, but actually they came out with a strong showing for the initial stage, and considering also that in terms of storylines, they barely didn't make it into this spring season of PMCO UK, so they gotta be hungrier than ever when it comes to getting into this fall season.
Definitely progression already, right? This time around, they made it into the PMCO. It's about really just really showing up, because they had some chance to show, like from PMCC, the Campus Championship Europe West, like, not the best that we've seen. They're same for PMNC, but this is their time.
Oh man, in terms of time as well for Arena 51 Esports, and alongside all, of course, so many of these new teams that we haven't seen, and this is what gets so exciting about jumping in for the first time to see Group C and D, because we did see those upsets. We saw those plays that came out from the newer squads that we didn't expect to come out with those great plays, and actually we saw the likes of some teams that we expected to be favorites coming into the tournament suffer, and they couldn't make those flashy plays like we required of them in that first day of games. So as a result, probably expecting the same things this time around once again. However, I think that when it comes to those staple names, they are very staple names that have been playing even more recently inside of competitive play in the UK scene, like, of course, Conqueror and Excuse Me. We expect them, particularly on Erangel, Excuse Me, I would argue, to be very dominant when it comes to this first match.
Well, they need to make it count. Really, they need to prove to us and everyone who's watching why they deserve it. And with this playing path for the first map of this day, goes from shooting range all the way towards the therapy area, a very western playing path. And I find this extremely interesting based on how it puts a lot of teams who love to go to anywhere, more eastern to farm or Yasnaya, out of the comfortable distance, right? And that will actually affect every team and every player in this tournament to say, hey, like, we can do our spreadsheets, we can study the map, but we can't for sure know that this is their favorite spot, because if we have an eastern playing path, they may go for something extremely different. So they need to bear in mind that wherever these enemies go, it could well be a secondary drop spot, but we have a lot of some just early clashes in some weird positions, because some of these teams may love those eastern side Island Wolf, and they may just be on vehicle hunting duty early on, but the first kill goes to actually a trio team.
Yeah, One King Gaming, they're able to grab up that first kill, and surprisingly, they're Wizard. And I think also for Wizard, you can't really count them out, because as you can see there, they do have those notable players. I mean, Dragon being one of them, coming straight from that PMNC, and also Joker too.
But you know what? Like, I think the way that these individual players perform in the past, they definitely did enough for us to remember them. And then no one who had like hard carried or anything, and especially in this early game, there's something that is not going as well as we want them to, maybe. But you know what? I'm having a mini stroke because it's the wrong side. Dragon was actually the side who got some kills. Yes, like it's a 1-for-1 for now, and this punching game is probably a little bit of disrespect, but you know what? If you can hit them, in the spirit, you can farm more than just that kill point.
I mean, to be fair, disrespect all aside, they are in the early games, so they do get clashed upon by a separate rest of their teammates. Actually, if they find that they maybe need that loot, they don't maybe have the ammo as much as would be required later on. I am right. I was in my head. I wasn't sure to say it, but still, they definitely seen them back in PMNC, because that logo is definitely reminding me of a few weeks ago, and I'm excited to see what they can do again. But around Hospital, an interesting location to start up, because Hospital is not the easiest to rotate and fight around.
I think it's only a situation that we will see in the first day of play, for at least the first day for these teams. Because thinking about Hospital, ahead to a 4v4 fight, if you are known for having that again and again, there could be teams from all over, probably from Georgia Pool, that will third party from the outside, and suddenly you've got a lot more to worry about. But before that happens, it's kind of like a very good TDM map, I should say, and the trigger discipline as well as the footsteps are extremely important, and that will be the first knock coming through. It doesn't matter if you wait, if you don't land your shots.
Oh, and Alex already going down, but you do see Lakrita and also the rest of Spill. They are moving in. Lakrita goes forward and not, but they fall down as well. In Spill, they've already lost 2 in the early game, and that extra cavalry joining in for the support no longer to be the case. Kelly Boy and Gordish, they will be rotating elsewhere just to survive for the rest of this game. Already down 2.
You know what? It's a great decision to rotate away. There's no way to fight this uphill battle, right? And you don't have the numbers advantage. You could still be under-looted, like we saw, no backpack as well, very low amount of meds. So it would just be the right thing to do, to think about where the playing path was, look at phase 1 circle to see how you can continue your looting phase and find a great way to enter as a duo.
And now also, I think when you look towards those star-studded players, Conqueror, around Rozhok. Now, we did see around Rozhok a little bit of some upsets previously in PMNC, and I'm excited to see if we can see some more again. Conqueror, one of those teams who are very aggressive when it comes to their pushing power, and very aggressive when it comes to entering into a team fight, finding that knock, and then continuing to push that advantage. And I think that confidence is something that comes through from their experience as a team, right? And it's something that you maybe don't expect from these newer squads who are joining up for the first time. Maybe don't have that confidence to push and be as aggressive. But on the other side, Conqueror, who do have that experience, they know exactly the limits of each player and how much they know when it comes to the knowledge of the game and how willing they are to press advantages.
Yeah, it also comes from that advantage and confidence, right? Come from the knowledge of the map, of the city. They've been dropping here for a while now. And the issue right now is Silent Wolf. The fact that Rozhok's not really inside a great position in the circle, right? It's kind of on the edge there. So if people are just going to wait for others to make mistakes, it's going to just be detrimental for both teams. You slow down your looting because you don't want to get out of cover. You don't want to give away any info. You slow down your progress in finding the vehicles required into the late game. We know that western side can be incredibly open. You really need maybe 1 vehicle per person to have a great chance of rotating in that part of the map. So both teams need to think how they can get an opening. So it's not just about that waiting game, but we look over here Gatka, important part of the map right now. We need players to think about not just looting, but turning this into a neutral fight anytime based on the info from the surrounding areas.
And the zone as well, right? When it does move through towards the western side, Gatka probably one of the contested locations coming into this zone because it is so much of a flat open expanse around the center portion of the zone. Is something the team's probably not willing to have to try push into when it comes to that early game controlling Gatka going to be important. But I actually think to argue, as we do have to hold off, Shoot to Survive are shooting down onto Snowboy, we do retreat for now. So we have given away their location. However, I do want to move back towards here as Sus needs to be very, very careful. Indeed, does go so low that around towards the southern side of this western shift zone, towards that quarry and towards those hills, entering into more flat area, in towards Gatka itself, also very strong.
Yeah, I love what Conquer UK is trying to do. They don't want to have that really passive play style that we mentioned, waiting for someone to make the mistake. They make use of the knowledge of the map to rotate close to the riverside and then head to the top side of Rozhok on the northwestern bit. And then you have relative high ground. You've got access to the next part that's closer to the center zone, and you can almost out-rotate the side of S2S to maybe get an opening knock and to punish them on staying in that town for so long. And that is actually a beautiful attempt, but you need to maybe time the shots like better to get an opening knock. Like, after all, though, even if you got a knock, it's not an easy distance for you to confirm some kills.
I think the advantage in this location does go to Conqueror because, as you said, rotating around, and they're able to do that because they have the hill to their advantage. They're able to control the edge of that hillside, and because they have that small dip away from the vision of S2S, actually, as a result, they can move away unseen. Danoka, Dari, they can actually move, or I should say, move themselves up towards this northern building, and you're going to have a lot more vision over the rest of Shoot to Survive. Where Shoot to Survive, yes, you've got Rain on the off angle, but you've got 3 players trapped in the center who are being pincered from 2 angles. So if they do try to rotate out, they won't have to just yet, but come phase 3, it becomes a lot more problematic because Conqueror have now your strong side entrance into zone.
Yes, and I love this phase 2 circle. It forces teams to think about power positions, thinking the pacing of those rotations. Like, we've got that river to separate the northern and southern half of the map. That cube compound close to those bridges, extremely important. Same for those garage houses, just to the north of Everest. So we should see Everest in play as well. So it really comes down to the preferences of the team and what they think the strengths are. So like, this is going to be a great map to start off with for these teams to test each other's styles, preferences, as well as skills.
And we talked about informational prowess. The only best position ever on Erangel is Everest, to be fair, Tarzan. I mean, the rest of, they zoomed up there, like they activated that Zumi's button and they smashed it with both fists. I mean, now you see that advantage paying off to them, though. Because, now that they control the high ground, not only did they just stop the rest of KLR from being able to rotate further into zone, they actually force them on a longer rotation path. They maybe have to fight more teams, get caught by information of other teams, and also that you can shoot down upon as they make that rotation.
Yep, but you know what? I love KLR's rotation so far because they got pushed away and they were so decisive to say, you know what, we're not going to challenge that. Not only that, they took it a step further and say, you know what, this compound that we've retreated to ain't too good either because it's not quite close to positions that we can scout further. So we're going to continue with the rotation to another one that gives us more options. And then they just make that decision straight away. And that's what I love to see. Now, you can see a lot of teams sometimes getting extremely stuck, like when they hear some, enemies around, like they feel the pressure and they get absolutely frozen, right? So that is not what's happening with KLR. And I think is a great sign for a team that's new on stage.
I think it's that adaptivity that we're really looking for, the journey of players. Maybe we're not looking for the most impactful of players early on, but it is going to be impactful coming straight through from BU. He found 1 knock already, and KLR Raven now on the retreat. We have to try find that new position, able to pick up the fight in a better advantage, but we just jump straight over the vehicle, blow them up, and BU takes 2, and it's going to be 1 in total to Arena 51. But for the rest of Arena 51, this is what we talked about. Coming straight through from the previous competition, maybe didn't work out, improving yourself here. I mean, they have something to prove because they were inches from getting into the spring season, as we said. And I feel that only makes a team like Arena 51 even more hungrier and, in a way, even more scarier coming into the full split.
Yeah, they need to really prove it via their place, though. Like, in the past, we've seen them just struggling a little bit, looking lost in the mid game, not exactly showing a clear game plan based on the way that they play. And there's wouldn't say it's the same for Most Wanted, but we've been waiting for them to perform well through the whole tournament of PMNC, and they've only had some big games towards the last day. And this time round, they will bring in Top Spin for a little bit of a spin, right? A bit of a change, and they need to really find a way to do that now. We actually have a hard shift to the southern side. Many teams would want to contest this cube compound, and even if they do, it will still mean that they are very likely to face a rotation for the next circle, because that is just on the northern edge right there for this new circle.
I've not seen a headshot Hills Ruin circle for a long time, but I love a difficult zone here for the first game, and these teams, they're going to be tested. And you mentioned about compounds. I think towards those few compounds heading into Ruins, just above the hills of Headshot Hills themselves, you can look down upon that, you can look down upon Ruins, you have advantages back in towards the sightlines of the woods behind you. I think that teams, they should be expected to rush there. I think that also for the sake of excuse me, they've actually struck pretty lucky when it comes to the fact that Everest is still available, and they can continue to find all of that information on teams rotating into zone because of that hard shift.
Yes, I think it's about testing, skills and experience in doing a reset up would be what I call it, right? From that power position, you need to think about keeping info towards the center so that you can make sure you have info for the next rotation because you're now on that edge. But at the same time, you need to make sure you fence off whoever's trying to challenge that power position. But from kind of just an educated guess, I feel like teams know that is a power position like for now it's been saturated in the past two phases. They won't try to challenge it, so it will be down to to use that position to expand the control whilst thinking about the best split. But we also have Gatka Fields in here on the southern side. We almost forgot about these chopsticks. It's going to be 777 Esports to strike first.
What a beautiful position. The end of those chopsticks, a little bit of a dip inside. But Arena 51, they went for the heals. They did lose one. Demon will be confirmed through, as it will be UV for 777 to take the first knock. But now 777, they don't want to stop here. They want to continue moving in, and they have now pressed the smokes. They're pressing that advantage through to Arena 51. And for them, in a situation where Xerox isn't there in the fight, and they're in the open, vulnerable to those rotating early through this phase 3 into phase 4 now, rotations.
And I love what 777 is trying to do here. They want to put pressure on, but they know they are very aware of how they can expose themselves to more, angles if once they get up to that ridge line, right? So that is them actually to pre-smoke first, and I do love that. But that is Arena 51 to return and slow down that push with a nade, and Boss almost gets blown up, and I think that might be him losing his life for that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he is. He's already down. 3 grenades will do it. His Translate takes the kill, and now UV Sour on Londa. The smokes have dissipated, but we take through Zelx immediately as those smokes do clear. If someone was the perpetrator of it, and it's a 2-for-1 situation so far in favor of 777. But Arena 51, they are not out of the woods yet. Neither are 777. That zone shifted way hard now from both of them in towards Everest, the edge of Ruins. So all of these teams moving in from Ruins, all of those teams moving in up towards Everest, even down from the south. There's 3 difficult points of congestion, and well, guess what? That's where the teams are coming in from.
And it's so tricky because so many of the teams don't want to go for a straight cross through the ridge, so they went for the really all around rotation, going back to the other side on that east around Rozok first, and then really slow down the rotation. And Most Wanted is out because there's so many teams trying to crash on that side. But it's down to Arena 51 to control this because they don't have a zone in the circle, they don't have a position, they do have hay bales and quite a lot of reflex though.
And Golden goes straight on down. And for here, the rest of 777 as well. Now they reapply the smokes. They reapply through the grenades onto Arena 51. But will that find it? Not just yet. We'll go wide again. Arena 51 in a little spot above it. Haven't not rotated since. Neither have 777. But when you look at the rest of the map, Conqueror as well. Rotating it all the way from Rozhok. Making that quick scout with Danoka. But also Translate will get caught out. Will get firsted out by Londa on the flank side. And now only going to be BU.
Nice one.
Remaining. His Translate will also fall. And now it's a complete burst through. BU in the smoke. There's nowhere to go. 777. They take 5 kills now in total.
Oh, and that patience as well, just noticing that the side of Arena 51 are worried about the backs. So that is 777 Esports finding the time to slowly come up, not only stealing the kills, but applying pressure from multiple angles. And now they get an entry into the southern side. It's not going to be easy. It's quite open there, but excuse me, blessed by the zone, they get this elevation. It will be on that northern edge, but they need to find a way to get down, and this is where the experience can really shine.
excuse me, where we have been sat on this mountainside for what has been nigh on the last 10 minutes here, Tarzan. And they have been chilling. They have been sunbathing in the midst of the mountain range. But now, Alternative Esport, they are here. And Alternative Esport, they are here to play as they move up further on the mountainside. Kaneki is on the front. And for the rest here of Alternative, I think it is very inspiring to see how they were able to catch that position. They've been able to get a spot inside of zone where we have the high ground, just like, excuse me, we get that vision, but also at the same time, they have also eyes on, excuse me, and it pressures, excuse me, further back against the edge of that western side of zone. So in the event of a northeastern shift, actually it gets into a better hands of Alternative.
Yep, I think it's really down to the basic team mechanics when it comes to these teams. Like I mentioned before as well, is to find the balance between scouting and baiting, all that stuff. The best teams can do those things at the same time from one maneuver. You get the opening, you get the bait, you get the scout, and that is what you can do. And that you can see 777, although down to a trio, playing so confidently, and that's what we want to see. Shoot to survive will not survive this game 1 though, and they're out at 13th place.
I think for them it has been difficult. They went way too late from that Roshawk rotation. They were one of the last teams here to rotate through into zone. They get punished for it. It's a zone, rightly so. We question, does it hard shift? Yes, it will, but towards the south side. And now Risk, who have been sat just around the edge of these Gatka fields onto the north, they had everything in their hands to take this game, but they have a lot of players to take down alongside it. I think more importantly is all of these players on the south. That's where the congestion is, and to their deficit, that makes it harder. Because had those teams been on the north side, the road is a lot more effective at gatekeeping those teams away. So for the rest of, excuse me, Alternative and also Conqueror, that rotation initially does become harder because they have that open expanse of the road they have to cross, where they have that brief moment where they're completely vulnerable to everyone shooting down upon them.
Extremely tricky because they've got someone on their back. They can't even go into area to scout what's in front. Excuse me, make sure they wants to clear this out. The footstep is there, and that is going to be a 1v4 that Ari needs to deliver.
Ari is going to go in. He's going to strike through one vote for, excuse me, bit. They have 1v1 situation, but will they find a 2v1? They do take Costi down, but it's too many. A little too late. Here is, excuse me, they will confirm through Conqueror. But to the extent that we lost 2 players, it puts them a lot further behind in that rotation. As you can see, buys actually way for Alternatives to now enter into the zone. But Risk, this is where we said Risk they have to control. This is the first test. Can they control multiple teams, both now Alternative, but also those around them towards that eastern side?
And this is maybe an important one for Risk because they were the team that shown the skills on PMNC, and no one's particularly impressed that time round. And now that you've been given the compound, you've got 2 kills as that momentum, it will be back to those basic skills in holding down and defending these hard covers to show whether they've got the potential to go even further. But that will be a knock on there. That will be the sort of Alternative Esports getting an opening maybe.
And Foreign Union as well, going to join the ranks of the dead in the first game as they cannot handle that pressure of phase 5. But excuse me, they do survive. They get across to the edge of this roadside, but they still have to find that way across the roadside. That is the tricky part of this rotation. They still have not managed that, but we still find a Nox. Kaneki now going to fall. And here, rest of Alternative, they can't move because for the rest of Born for Victory, they were able to strike down not only onto those inside. As here they push on in. Alternative, they lose through one. The front line has gone. Splash does strike back. Prada now entering up, but now Prada has to step through with a Nox. He find a second for the squad. Will it be a third? A revive did come through. Yes, it should be. Straight round the tree, left, right, they take it. And now the 4th one. But can they get it? No, Prada falls down. Splash trying to save this for his team, but they have no life. And now comes Costi. The 1-on-1 situation. They don't go for the revive. They chuck to Molly in. As one king also drop. But they do hold off for now. They're not willing to press that advantage with 3 knocked players.
And that is also going to be an attempted reset. They do have the time though, so I can't disrespect that. That is actually really, really great so that they keep the numbers up. They've got the rich line, they've got the info, they've got a very small distance to travel. They know they have numbers advantage, but will this be even harder though, because they are also giving the other team some time.
But they've only got 2 players. Keep in mind that Godmels, yes, they are alive, but they are not going to be revived, and neither will be the rest of Godmels and his team as a whole. As Kaneki now will fall and splash back down to the solo player. Kosti making the revive once again onto Prado. It does buy them time. Grenades will not be quick enough to be used. But inside the compound, Risk are getting blown up by Born for Victory. They took the knocks, and now it's down to 2 players for Risk, Crazy, and Wexer in the back end. Quaisen now going to be revived. Dragon trying to chuck in as a third party. Some chaos, but Born for Victory maybe can't handle that. As a solo here for Risk takes them through. Born for Victory eliminated 4 there for Risk is now also alternative will drop as well.
It's so important that Dragon's trying to third party from the outskirts without even being shown and known. It's the nades from that third party angle, and he delivered. Now up to 5 kills, but leading will be Kosti, and that will be, excuse me, coming in strong maybe, but they're losing 1 by 1. But still, that is going to be a great early tempo.
And here for Kosti has to bring in everything. So does Dragon. They are the solo players, but look at his kills. They're up to 11 in total. We said, Tarzan, this is their map. Feels so confident when it comes to Erangel, and this plays to that double the amount of Erangel games for them. And already in game 1, they're showing up as they are now inside the top 5. Still 777 though. They have the most players. They have 7 kills still in the quadra 7 of this squad. They could still take the game.
You know what, but down to a solo is not going to be easy, so that zone and the shift will really dictate how this final game is going to go. I should say final circles of this game, and there's going to be 777 Esports with the numbers advantage though, slowly edging in from that western side. They've got experience, we talked about that already, and they've had some really good fights as well. Now up to 7 kills, they are setting themselves up for a really good one, but the zone will not be in anyone's advantage right now, so it will be coming down to that landscape, whether they can find a Nyx cover with rocks and trees.
They needed that knock for London, not able to find it. And now we know that, well, Champion Gaming, there is someone over there, and there is someone willing to take them down. But for multiple sides, it will be Wizard Dragon striking again. Will take through continuously. A second. Here's Wex, will also fall a 2v1 situation. Now up to another 2 kills in total. Champion Gaming, though, big mistake. Pablo inside the vision of everyone. Yuvi punishes, but here's a second. Will fall as well. Yuvi with a double of her own, but will fall down to the backside. Is now Champion Gaming eliminated. 777 down to 2 players. Still going to be alive. Still Wizard, but solo players alive. 777, they have the advantage. But Original Lines, they belong to Kosti. They belong to solo of Dragon.
The problem is the timing, though. They've got a spot in the circle 777 Esports, but one of the players not. The 2 solos are playing so confident. They're both popping the heck off in this game, but they do not have a spot in the circle. So will 777 Esports get overconfident in this setting? And that will Dragon trying to strike, and that will be him actually losing his position soon.
Dragon, there's a zone behind you. Kosti's walking in, though. We're so distracted by Wizard. Look at on the backside. Kosti's still walking in. He hasn't even been stopped just yet. Dragon will fall, but here comes Kosti. They found a knock onto UD, but looking for the second knock. They got the airdrop to protect him for now. Drops underneath it, but London looks for the wraparound to try to take Kosti down. Kosti straight back up, though. Grenade over the top does not go into the back of that airdrop, will bounce off the side. The second will be required, and Kosti now forced to move. Here now comes a little bit of a grenade too late. Now Kosti, they will fall off the backside. Just too many players. And 777, they take that first game.
What a beautiful way to play this game. They played beautiful PUBG this time around. You know, like from that early game control, they played the more... It's a very controlled play, but it's really well explained. Like when it comes to landscapes, the map, timing of all that, it could be a bit quicker, but they have the required patience, right, to slowly pin down every single kill that they can. And they are looking extremely solid. So like if they, especially with those experience there, if they can continue how they've started today, I think they are one of the squads to beat.
I think overall, 777, we said they were coming in. We knew that they were going to be a team to look out for. I think that they had definitely solidified them as that. And I think that it is promising to see teams who we expected as we look at those results, who were the favorites coming in for Group C and D, to step up, because that's something we didn't see yesterday. So it makes that nice change.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's really well played by many of these squads. Like, I think from the first to fourth, we've seen the aggression from, excuse me, as a team, like 777 to make the most out of their position. Wizard Esports with Dragon just going crazy when he's down to himself, like ever so patient and born for victory. Yes, only 2 placement points, but 10 kill points to back 12 for this first game. We're seeing some momentum coming through and just, some aggression getting really heavily rewarded in this game one.
And I love that the players coming through from these solo players are Dragon and also Kosti, who absolutely stepped up in this first match. And we mentioned it, well, excuse me, they were a team to watch. They certainly are. But 777, as we said, they take the 15 placement points. They take that chicken dinner. They take that first place. Alternatively, though, when we look towards alternative esports, surprising to see them as well, and Champion Gaming up towards the top. And considering that, well, for them coming in, they were one of these or two of these new teams here, Tarzan, and that we wanted to see these new dogs take some points, take some games off of the rest of these ex-champions or big teams coming into the league, and they have just done that in this first game.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 8 points all from placement points, so we need to see whether they can repeat that while bagging some kill points, because that really shows, a style, whether they can make the most out of a position as well. But as you can see, like, that point sponge is real for this game one. So many teams struggle to get barely any points in this game. So from 9th to 16th, we've only got 3 points max, and that's by shoot to survive. And it's a lot of those early skirmishes as well. I think Highland Wolf, the general impression of this game one for today compared to yesterday, they are quite warm. They are ready to fight. Yes. I feel like there's a lot less indecisiveness. So it could be just a matter of the fact that it's the second day of the tournament, or they just learned. It just came in more ready.
I mean, to be fair, they have had one day of games to watch and prepare. I think that it is unfortunate to see again Most Wanted down at the bottom, I think, as well as Arena 51. Those were the other two teams that we were really expecting to be able to show up. And I think the Most Wanted, that's a surprising one, right? Because considering that they got, 5th position coming through in PMCO Spring in those finals, they were one of those top teams. But I feel that they still have been almost leapfrogged by some of these other squads when it comes to the later end of the game, Tarzan.
And you know what? It could be down to those particular styles. They want to go for conservative, safe, like so-called big brain white rotations, but it's starting to become so common now. And from their initial position, they are going for an idea that's shared by many teams that are closer, like from the same destination to enter the zone. And that is probably why it was so hard. So, you know what? We just need a different style from time to time. And Most Wanted need to maybe use more brute force with their gun skills.
Brute force, that's what we'll need here. Sanhok is up next, the most brute force map of them all. We will see you on the jungle side. Welcome back to the PMCO UK Fall Split 2021. And here we have one game down, Tarzan, where we saw a beautiful winner chicken dinner from 777 Esports. But also, what is beautiful is our sponsor, Xiaomi, where you can enjoy a super fast and lag-free PUBG mobile experience on Xiaomi's powerful Redmi Note 10 5G. And we talked about 777 coming through into this tournament as one of the favorites. I think, rightly so, the way that they positioned in that game was something pretty well done. Oh no. Oh no, we have hit Tarzan issues. While Tarzan figures out what is going on with those issues, we will discuss those positionings here myself. Just you and me. Just you and me, okay? We will discuss these issues. And personally, I got to feel they're heading through into 777 onto the second game. Oh my days, they look pretty darn good. I mean, the way that they closed out that ridgeline, the way that they control that end of zone. I mean, I don't know if you're here, Talan, to explain a little bit more about that. The way they were able to maneuver in those last few games, that was what was so good about them.
I think it's really hard to, dissect, because it comes down to the preparation basically from phase one. Is how it looks like for me. And I think that is going to be quite tricky, like to dissect some of these plays, because it's all started from drop locations, right? Some of these teams, if they say, hey, we're going to slow down phase one because we want to go back to that eastern side for some comfort position, they didn't realize how it can set them up for something quite bad that is really hard to overcome, because they are just very late into this part of the map on the western side that's filled with those power positions that's so hard to to challenge. And that is how Excuse Me started with that game. Yes, they did not win that game, but 11 kills, and that's just like pure aggression, but it's also pacing from that rotational style from the start of the game.
I think as well to be noting, actually, Excuse Me, with that other team that I really wanted to keep my eye on, because they, in the way that they were aggressive in their rotations, that's something that we're really looking to see, right? Because considering that also the way they rotated off of that hillside, they didn't have the cleanest of rotations, yes, the cleanest of team fights, and that's what really stopped those rotations. But I think that there were those small plays, and particularly when you look back towards the pulling back from a fight to actually go for the revive and say, actually, we should pause this, we should look for what is a better play in that situation. It's those sort of in the moment decisions that you want to see from these top players.
Yeah, and you know what? There's so much good stuff that happened in that game that actually put a smile on my face. I think to play confidently is great to see, right? But I can see some of these teams, although they've lost their lives earlier, there was some good thinking, and they shared some of those good thinking. That's why they clash with each other in neutral fights on those wide rotations. So can't really fault them for that. Now it's going to be about that adjustment after a very eventful game one to see how they can do, especially on a very different map. It's going to be quite spicy.
I mean, Sanhok, that is the map next. And we said how spicy it was going to be, considering as well the pacing of the days of competition, right? I mean, Sanhok's always going to be that second map. And I think to be preparing from Erangel to Sanhok is a slightly bigger jump, you've got to argue, in competitions where you're jumping onto Miramar, right? It's a lot faster pace where you're going faster earlier on, and then you're arguing more towards positioning and that slower state of play in Miramar afterwards.
Yeah, and I don't know what to think. I think it's going to be about us, trying to absorb as much information and data at the same time as well, because their drop locations are quite new to us for most of them, right? Because I know if we carry over from past experience, we would expect maybe most wanted to be around Camp Bravo and Excuse Me to be around Quarry area, and it's really hard to say. I think Arena 51's been making some changes. I'm not sure. I don't have perfect memory, so we need to find out. And so we will be learning, as most players are doing at the same time. And you know what? It comes down to those, important plays that's specific to this map as well.
I think as well, we got to look towards teams who didn't perform, and we mentioned slightly most wanted. I will actually say that still my mistake, but not from PMNC. I was
Mm.
so determined to find out where they're from that we looked it up. They're actually through from previous Summer Scrims tournaments that we've been looking at.
Mm.
So overall, I think that coming in, they do have that recent experience as a team, but it's something we were looking for more. And I think,
Mm.
yes, we highlighted those PMNC teams like Arena 51 Most Wanted, but Spill, who actually did fairly well in those summer scrims and were against fairly difficult players individually, maybe not the highest level of competition, but still had strong showings, is a big
Mm.
step up for them considering. And I think they felt that going in 16th position on this first game.
Oh, you know what? Like sometimes it just happens. Like it really comes down to the reason and whether they can do some adjustments between games. Like teams behave very differently. I think it comes down to two main things. One, how did that actually happen? Sometimes it's something that's not too hard to fix. And two would be the reaction, right? Like you can respond to it in
Yeah.
a way that is really to your advantage. You learn it and then just focus on the upcoming game. But sometimes teams can't do that. Right? They're just in a slump. They're also frustrated. No one steps up to say, "It's okay." We
True.
need those important team skills. So that's why it's so important to be a good team player as well. A communicator is always so key, and that value is so important. Like yes, you need mechanics, but if you want to be the top, you need to be one of those people.
And I think as well, considering it's Spill, yes, they struggled. I think then now it comes to a question of momentum, right? And mentality. Do you let that get to you from that first game and that bad performance affect you? Or do you now go back, you refresh, you say, look, let's clear the whiteboard and we'll say, these are the new plans for Sanhok. It didn't work out last time. Let's look at how this works overall. And as we do have slightly just a short moment before we get into the game, I wanted to really question going out of that game as well, the fact that Wizard were one of these newer teams, but secretly a little bit of incognito going on because they're not new players. They actually are a squad of veterans.
Yep. I mean, you can see sometimes in their play, they are almost picking fight whenever they have to. And that actually costs them, some numbers disadvantage when it enters that mid game. But those individual plays came through, in particularly from Dragon that we could see. And so who knows whether this same style will still work in Sanhok. I think it's really to find that balance, between the aggression, confidence, and playing in a very disrespectful way that is highly punishable. So I think that will be the key right now, especially for those teams who got a great start in game one. Like Sanhok is completely different. You need the particular adjustment, although you may be in high right now, just don't really manage it. So find that line, guard it, and play well.
I think for Sanhok particularly, and these teams in particular here, we talked about how, yes, they're very aggressive. I think, to be fair, though, that actually aggression has worked out in the past. I mean, you look towards Nico Defense League heading as we through to the second game, and their performances in PMNC, that actually they were able to put with that aggression the ability to take victories and the ability to actually take the victory of the entirety of the competition. And that's what really impresses me the most, Tarzan,
Yes.
about the UK region, is almost in a way that the teams we send to represent, yes, they are very, in a way, you could argue disrespectful, but they're not scared in terms of their aggression overall.
Yep. But you know what? It's going to be Xiaomi being very important as our sponsor this time around. So if you want a really seamless and lag-free PUBG mobile experience, please just look at that Xiaomi Redmi Note 10 5G so that you can have a great experience in this game as we dive into this map. Right now, we have a pretty center plane path all the way, basically from Tatmok all the way to Docks. And we talk about this as you would quote me from time to time, Highland Wolf. We've got 4-kilometer times 4-kilometer map. So quite small there with some good parachuting skills, especially with this, then it's going to be quite, an interesting one when it comes to studying the map. Like people can rely on the data generating from this plane path and this drop.
Yeah, I think overall, for sure, this is going to be an interesting zone. However, the site will go down, will be confirmed through. So, excuse me, from actually what had been a very good start for them, they find themselves caught out as well down towards Painan. And this is where we're ideally looking towards a lot of these teams heading to the bridges early on. I think that this speaks to me with so many teams on the edge of that zone, more on towards the western side of the play area. You're going to see a lot of fighting into trying to get into those edge plays because yes, teams, they have a lot of space to maneuver still. Yes, it's in the ocean, but there is still space on Sanhok. It still is on the main island. So on one hand, you actually have not so much of scarceness in terms of where you want to go throughout the game because you know it's only going to be on that main island of Sanhok. However, I think, as we said, the bridges, the choke points are what we're really looking at into how teams control going into this game as Mini will also fall.
Yeah, I mean, like early game as well, when it comes to Pioneer, very, very hard sometimes, like with this trace, can hurt both teams going into the mid game, but especially from this position. Like, I don't think this will repeat like quite a lot because if you're known to go to Pioneer, it's really easy to get hunt down, but it's not always the case. But these early fights, you would need to go back to how your drawing board to know how you love to play this map, your particular, building splits, right? So those are all important. It's 1 for now. Born for Victory's been very aggressive in that first game. 1 kill point, but 10 kill point, I should say, only 1 placement point. But the side of Alternative Esports also was quite surprising as well in the good way. So this time around, this early clash will be the test to the status and the and kind of the confidence of both teams.
Yeah, I think that overall here for the confidence of teams, that's something that I think we're expecting. That not only Born for Victory, but in a way, so do Alliance coming through into the second game, something they're going to have, alternative, should I say here, esports, because they both did well and they both had these standout performances when they were able to find those good positions, or in the sense of Born for Victory, when they were able to find those kills overall, taking down notably Risk in that first game. And around Painan, I do think that they'd have to be very aware of how long they're taking these fights. Considering that the zone has gone slightly away from them, they're not in reach of that zone for the most part. So we want to be able to finish this fight out effectively and quickly because they know that later on, they want to be able to find that good position inside of zone.
I mean, Painan is just ever so tricky. And I think what Knight's doing here is actually great. I think that's great thinking. Thinking about maneuvering out of Painan that needs to happen anyway. There's only a few routes, and to go to this site closer to Quarry is a great way to control, and you can actually allow some baiting to come through as well. But it's not going to be quite easy when there's Splash in this position. Like already dealt 95 damage is quite kind of. It's a good thinking. I think to stop the rotations to come out, I think that is exactly what we want to see, and that is making use of the knowledge of that city as well.
Yeah, as well, considering here is the Splash will also fall, another Born for Victory as they confirm what could be their second. Splash will dive away for now, and Kaneki is coming for the revive, but I don't know if it's enough. I don't know if it's enough considering the Splash is already so low. Well, now it's definitely not because Quaisen will confirm the kill through. So Born for Victory up to 2, Alternative down to 1 kill only for them. And here also the rest of Spill, engaging onto 1802 around the rest of these ridge lines. Further inside towards the zone is Gordish repairing on the front line. Now, this is where Trigger Discipline comes in, you've got to think, Tarzan.
Oh yeah, I think it's not just Trigger, it would be about those footsteps that we like talking about, finding those distances. It's just so hard. I think controlling and managing how much audio cues that you're trying to, give away. It's so key, especially when we talk about Sanhok. It's not just footsteps, not just gunshots. It will be about the vehicle meta is coming in as well. So these teams would maybe would love to join me in the laboratory to, find out what's the rendering distance for those sounds, because it's one of the most overlooked skill, to my knowledge right now. And so let's see how they can make that work. And this time around, this is not an easy part to play through. We know how this preference, getting into this cliffside around Quarry can be so strong. And One King Gaming want to have a better start in this game too.
And as well, considering Foreign Union now, they even looked like they had a position. They looked like they cornered One King Gaming, but One King Gaming, they say no. They take down ZT and they will defend their positions for now. And this makes it a lot harder because ZT was the frontline member. ZT was that member for their squad to actually be able to find that position further down the mountain, to be able to then to actually control 1kg on that decline behind further into the zone. But it's the fact that it's turned to the other side. I think this is something that we're really looking for now, to how this duo will defend. Keep in mind, though, however, for 1kg, they also are just a duo, so it is still even footing on terms of members. Those other two players, they are off to the flank side.
I think like Foreign Union has the good idea, or should I say they know on their textbook, they know this is a strong position, but it takes more than knowing to make it work. I think the split around this hill is extremely tricky. You almost need to find the best rock, for each player to stand and understand why you do that, so you can allow the maximum amount of control, information, and trading. That refrag is so key if you need to hold on to it. And now they're pushed to one side, and as a duo, it's extremely hard to hold us down without being backstabbed. Of course, we need to look at that circle to establish more of that theory, but this will be One King Gaming actually slipping a little bit. And, they had a good start, but this side is just so punishing on this cliff. So let's see how they maneuver through. Like, both teams need to show up more because we haven't seen them much in game one.
And considering that, One King Gaming, they still hold that flank side, that is what is so strong about their positioning. However, because they have lost aggros, I wanted to actually note that that split was due to the fact that we were having a third party around them. And it's this situation where you do have these third parties upon third parties coming into this phase 1. Phase 2 zone, I think more particular, is where we will start to see them really take shape in terms of how they are being able to maneuver around these team fights, or more importantly, maybe avoid these team fights, because that's something we also saw yesterday from some of those squads where they did take too many teams at once and they did fall because of this.
And I think it's so tricky to establish that idea as well, like on this map, because it's all about reactive play, and it's so easy to send someone in and just stay cool for a little bit and maybe have some baiting, but that is not the way you bait, and it's not the way that you claim a compound, the way you crash as well. FU down to 2, and I think that will be the end for this squad.
Yeah, for sure. Kelvin does find one, but there comes the support cries and will follow up. Does buy enough time, and they confirm it through. I think that was very disrespectful from Foreign Union, and of course, rightly so, they get punished for it.
I think, yes, like it's a little bit of a desperation knowing that they're down to 2, so they need to make it count. But I think leaving that cliff, it's a sensible move. But the way to do it is definitely going to be a bit different. But we're bringing ourselves around to this eastern side, close to Lakawi. It will be most wanted to clash with Excuse Me first. If there's any team that you want to take down for momentum, this will be the team.
Oh, but Kosti is already so low. He still finds strikes out to strike. So, however, and now Ads on the inside. It will be grenade chucked through first by Kosti. 12 will be confirmed. Ads barely dodges out more explosives. So does Prada. Another one straight through. It will go wide. So will the second. And Ads holding away to the edge. Where is the support from Hardman? No, Hardman still entering into the fight. It's a 2-on-2 situation. Risk as well. Maybe looking to position to go in as a third party. Keeping an eye on how that kill feed will play through.
You know what? And I think that's great play from KLR. Like, just from the distance, they were waiting and waiting. And when the side of most want to take aggression and enter unresettable area, they open fire. So that is great. We talked about trigger discipline. That is one way to do that. And Ads will use some smokes and try to get out. And that will be the time. And I think it's good to do some damage control around there. And they've still got some distance to travel, but Most Wanted has made their mind. And I can't disagree with that. But Excuse Me, though, they haven't got the first kill yet. And they are down to 2 players. But you know what? It's not just any 2. It's Kosti and Prada. So I'm still having that hope. I know you like them a lot. It's not really favoritism, like it's track record as well, but they do need to be careful in the
I think that overall, rightly, it is track record in the sense that they have made PMPL before. And yes, they might have not had the performance they wished in the PMPL, but they're coming back in the way that they have come back is almost been bouncing back stronger. They feel like this duo, their synergy together, as long as you see them together, you know that they're always going to bring that next level of PUBG play for the UK scene.
Well, Too soon to say, I'd say, because we talked about responding to the plays after game one. We talked about adjustment and all that stuff. So we want to see certain of those momentum coming through. As you can see, like the struggle is real, especially for a huge adjustment to a small map as well. It's not going to be easy. Champion Gaming, yes, they got those eight points, but they didn't get a single kill. But this time around, they start up with one. So let's see whether they can continue with that momentum.
And now, when you look towards positioning, Tarzan, we, of course, haven't really seen what the Phase 2 has looked like. Would be great if we could see that. I mean, I assume, based on how it has gone and how these teams are rotating, it has moved away from the water slightly, but it has gone further again towards that more eastern coastline of Sanhok. And I think that's where you see again these teams making what is slower, more rotation-based shifts in the early game. And that's also something that you've seen through from Conqueror here as well, considering that they take that high ground. And I wanted to speak to you as well in terms of positions. Now, myself, a little bit of a noob here when it comes to PUBG Mobile in this situation of a zone. Where do you look for on this southeastern side of Sanhok if you want to try position strong in Phase 2, Phase 3 now coming in?
I still think like the area around cave and quarry is very strong, but maneuvering between those require vehicle, right? You need some sort of formation and almost need to make sure you think about where you came from, what you could know, like what you probably know from how you entered to where you are, as well as knowing where is the absolute unknown. So if you can kind of just color the map that way and play off what you know, it's going to be extremely key, but it's going to be so tricky. But we have that hill to the east of Quarry. That will be so OP. Right? I think it's about forming the right split around there and tightening it when appropriate. That's going to be so key, but I do feel for those teams around Makawi. They've got a huge road to cross. They will be like shooting targets on like in the shooting ground. So let's see whether they can find a way in after all.
I almost am inclined to feel that if there is a boat available to some of those teams further out, they could make that slightly further rotation around Sanhok, but KLR, they won't be making anything happen here as it will be a 1-for-1 trade inside the fight. Molly goes straight on top of them. They will continue to burn, but they have to be forced forward. This now could be pro into the opportunity for a grenade. They will damage down another of the KLR members is now Spill. They continue to push. Alex on the other side, but they do not find any more knocks for now. I think that here for Spill, they could have been a little bit more aggressive here. I think that they have that 2v4 advantage. Even if you start to lose players, you start to lose knocks, the knocks are then going to reveal where the KLR members are. And as a result, you can use that man advantage to still take a victory in that fight.
I think it's also sensible to make it a little bit slow, because if they overpeak, you can see the 1802 is like just on the backside. Like, can third party this anytime, so you used to slowly rotate along the ridge but not over rotate, because we do know this is more like the southern side. So if they keep making that small rotation, they can get like hit from the south and they will run out of cover, right? So KR is actually saved by that landscape, if I do say so myself. And you can see them just keeping the eye on still, like towards the center zone. All these three teams are basically trying to play the same plan, but they will have this part of this northern part, I should say, dissected by different ridge lines, and they all just want to hold it and wait for the next shift.
And moving down into the south side, so difficult. When we look towards that zone as well, Born for Victory, one of those teams that I think really have to make that rotation. They are doing so. There they go in a kill feed, taking down 777, because they appeared on what was more the western side of that quarry shift. So they have a lot of rotations to do. It'll be interesting to see how they actually are able to pull that off and rotate through towards the more eastern side of quarry itself, because have they remained towards the western side, yes, they may be getting knocks now, but they will find it insanely difficult in the event of another eastern shift to be able to cross that quarry, because they will have to then venture into the crevasse of quarry itself, and there is only so many exit strategies out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that goes hand in hand with the trigger discipline that like, we love talking about, and it's also about like what it means if I fire now. Like if you've got a huge road to cross, like Highland would mention, then you really need to think. You need to find different time to expose your position. Right, there's ways to keep yourself alive. Is not worth that one kill if it's going to lose your whole team. We can see that is a great position by Champion Gaming, and now with that position is extremely strong. And if they know how to expand and now to catch the funnel from the south side. We talked about those main roads. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a huge cluster. Everyone to come into that southern compound that is not claimed yet. We should have some fights around there as well. These teams in the center circle trying to farm every edge of this new one.
Should to survive as well, going to lose down. Sus is Arena 51. They have to make it against the edge of his zone. But now we come into the part of the game here, Tarzan, where it is going to be how fast can he make those rotations happen. Well, Arena 51, they have the help of Pew 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 onto Golden, as Wizard will lose one themselves. Looking to confirm it through Shoot to survive. They cannot find a second spray. Not quite there, and they still have the back of that zone against them. They do not have the vehicles, more importantly, which is what concerns me here, because Arena 51 not able to pick up fast mobility at this point in the game. Holding on to the back of that blue zone is very risky, because if you get caught by a team, you're going to be engulfed by that blue zone, and phase 4 is not what you want to be tanking.
Yeah, and you know what? Arena 51 is exactly doing that thing where I somewhat disagree. Like when you don't have info enough, like towards the center zone, you're not close to the zone at all, and you decide to open fire and tell everyone to stop your tracks. Like it's not like they can't do really cover to cover play either, so it's going to be so hard. But we look at this more center position here. Once again, blessed by the zone will be the side of Crazy Killer risk up, and they need to repeat what they've done earlier. Yes, not the best, not the cleanest, but this time around they've got the full squad once again, and they better know why they're splitting like this, because Most Wanted is not a team that you want to mess with, but that will be a different story if the patience is there. Most Wanted will lose their second.
Oh, and they lose ads now as well, only top spin. And co-remaining is here also Crazy Killer. It's Gup do take through their third kill at the game, and this is not where Most wanted to play this, with Hardman the opposite side of them available still. But they have nowhere to run. They have nowhere to go. And the problem being is that they are in the center of zone, Tarzan. So every single person has their eyes on this compound. The strength of this area is again going to be very strong, and I think that Crazy Killer Risk Up have done well to again control the center of the zone, but I do concern myself with the fact that they hadn't been able to control that in the first game. Can they actually control that this time around again?
Oh, well, I really don't know. And it's about those map knowledge as well, right? Like when you have a split, you know how to use that particular rock. You can use it so well because you found the best time, because your teammates, they heard the perfect comms from you, but it's not going to be easy, especially with Conquered UK. We talked about how we want them to do better, but once again, it's like no problem that we shouldn't face. It's 3 players this time around, but Hisoka wants to deliver still.
They still find a kill. They find a surprise, but a revive going to come through anyways. They're going to be out stronger for Born for Victory. Need to make something happen. Gets caught on the grenade, but they do turn back around in time. Will it be enough, though? Ooh. It will be for that second knock. And now, Nivey needs to move even further in. The revive coming through with a med kit from behind. It won't be needed. That secondary support here. Also, the rest of CG do confirm Champions Gaming Hisoka off the backside. Danoka left on their solo player, but problem now for Born for Victory is what Hisoka was able to do. They want to confirm those 2 knocks with the help of Champion Gaming, and they've now left the rest of B4V inside the blue zone and only as a solo player.
And I love the way the Champion Gaming is doing this. Yes, they claim the compound, but also send someone out of the circle to apply more pressure and get more info. And not all teams know how to do that, right? Like, you've got an anchor point, play around it. And that's the risk that you take, and they got rewarded. But 1802 is coming in with this decent amount of kills as well. We are going to see so much action on this ridge right now, because this landscape is of no jokes.
And One King Gaming, Kaka just walks into their death. 777 as well will be eliminated through disappointing second game from them. Not able to repeat success, but Team 12 await 5 kills for them. And the rest here in the meanwhile now have to move from that beautiful compound. Was the center, but into absolutely nothing. This zone is only going to be ridge lines. It is only going to be rocks and trees to defend these players inside this next phase. Is Spill also going to not spill out of water, but instead fire onto the Risk members. 2 on the front side and Spill still 2 remaining, but they are low. They don't have the HP really to be able to contest this, neither the position to be contesting this. Look at their overall position against the zone. There is now phase 6 moving in. Spill, they have to move, but Gordish is rightly so. No meds, no healing going to be accessible to them. However, they may have the success of Most Wanted also going to cut away Risky's chances.
You know what? And he's trying still, but that will be the zone tanking, and it will be going down. I mean, it's just so hard to play around this. It will be run and gun time, 63 meters further than you think, and that will be Risk actually making it count.
Oh, but Risk goes straight back down. We talked about that third party, and the shots continue. It is the fire continuing on Most Wanted. Also held there with Shoot to Survive, taking through Conqueror. Danoka going to fall through to the blue zone. Excuse me, also going to lose one. Kayla, Miran also going to drop. Dicker on the backside is going to fall too. And now Champion Gaming, they're continuing to press their advantage. They're continuing to press possibly a victory in this game if they can continue to keep those players alive. The south side of Wizard getting ruined as all of them will fall to phase 7. Born for Victory, Quaisen still alive as a solo player, but he is sandwiched between Shoot to Survive and Champions. His Most Wanted will fall as well. The final 5 is inside that zone. It goes towards the northern end, and for 1802, suddenly that chances of winning has shifted into their hands.
You know what? Like, it's great to see this team play. I know, like, some of the players been trying to grind, through the scene, from region to region, the tier 1 scrims to tier 1 scrims, and they definitely have the experience here. And now that on stage, of course, is a completely different type of exposure. I believe that they can make it work. The split is there. The thinking is there. You can see from the top right as well. There is that delegation that we talk about. But CG have one goal and one direction to head in, and they better make this count.
Champion Gaming, now Pablo, they're moving in, they're stealthy, they are the solid snake, but Pablo, they fall because Luco is a snake himself, and he takes down 1, they take down 2, cute as well. Oh, so cute for Champion Gaming. The ending is now only the Ved remaining. Quaisen on the edge of life, healing up with the painkillers. Finds Sus, can he find Pew? Will survive onto the edge of the zone, but it is the blue zone who takes another. Born for Victory will fall, cannot move further. The Ved takes him down. Champion Gaming up to 6 now. But look at 1802's positioning, 3 alive and 7. They have also Costi in the backside. They have to be careful about.
You know what? Like, just they found ways to balance aggression and survival. But let's hope that for S2, it will be the pew for the pew. David will be to the grave, and that will be 4 teams, but only 6 players remaining.
That's not pew, that's a grenade coming through, and then Pablo will also be blowing up into smithereens. Luvko now moves in to the fallen spot of that forward plays team, sends them through into third. Shoot to Survive will fall to solo because he is a solo as well. Should take second, they do take 1, Luco, but it's not enough. There is too many bullets, and it is 1802 with the zone who take the second match.
Man, like, that was great. Like, I think it's not an easy job, to come through from a circle like that and be able to end it with a good amount of kills, a chicken, and a good amount of players remaining. Like, that was a great play. We've got an extra team to look out for.
True. I think that overall, though, what impressed me the most was actually how Excuse Me were able to survive now 2 games in a row as that solo player. And this is actually really going to help them, because although they may not be getting the kills that we were expecting them to have, they having those placement points, that's 24 points in these 2 games alone. They've been able to grab just from those spots alone.
Yep. That was amazing. Like, and I think it really shows the strength of the squad, and it's so volatile, like on Sanhok as well. And now that they can do that, back to those huge maps, I think they're going to be crazy again. And I think that is what you can, like, the type of bets or faith that you can put in the team and the players, if the way that they play and the movement's been showing so much confidence and decisiveness.
And that sort of confidence, decisiveness is what we really want to see as we do head through to those rankings. See, alongside, excuse me, who is now on the top of that leaderboard, because 777, they found them really early in that game, so you do have to assume that they will fall down. As they're 1802, they do take that 24-point victory, shoot to survive in second once more. But I think also to an extent there, the consistency coming through for also Born for Victory and Wizard, who take equally 14 and 9 points respectively.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? This group is getting more and more interesting. Like, a lot of the teams that we think may do well, half of them did continue to do that, and half of them just fell down a little bit, but not all the way down to the point that we found it disappointing. But now we've got these other teams who we've seen or mentioned that we've seen in the past that's not as impressive. They're coming back strong as well. So this Group C and D day, like this day 2, has been so exciting so far, and I can't wait to watch the remaining 2 games.
And as well, considering a crazy killer risk up, you cannot count them down when, yes, they may have not been getting double digits so far, but they are getting those high single digits in terms of these games, 8 points through for them. And a game most wanted, unfortunately, only 2 points in 10th position, still having again a struggle. But more importantly, the shocker there, 777, 0 points in this game from that chicken dinner victory just previous.
Yeah, sometimes when we mention a team like most wanted or just any experienced team, like sometimes like experience is there and we know their names, they've been around the scene for so long, but it's about the meta as well. And I want to see that change, like that meta change, like through the different patches as well. And you know what, like I think that is one of the biggest challenges, like to say that whatever we've learned in the past is okay, but is not good enough. Like, and I think that will be what makes this game so interesting as well. It's not always the same bar that you're getting closer and closer. Is to have a different bar from time to time, and then you have to, beat all of them.
Yes, I think that overall, considering that, yes, they haven't been able to find that consistency, but also we are only 2 games into competition, so we still have 10 more games to go. There is still plenty of opportunities. We don't put the umbrella up for all the rain heading down on top of their heads just yet. I think that actually we are able to see them potentially bounce back. They've also got other groups to fare with, and that's also what is beautiful, that even if they do struggle potentially against one group of teams, they can continue to press their advantages further on.
You know what? Like, I think that's it for me. Like, for I don't have much more to say from that game. We still am happy. Shall I say happy with the performance? Like, many good thinking coming from the teams. There's still a great amount of teams alive towards that end zone. So to balance that between, in a very hard circle, I think that was a great job.
The overall is that we do head through to the break, and the third game will be Miramar. We will also stack out those results overall from game 2 when we catch you right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the PMCO UK Fall Split 2021 season. Of course, myself, Helen Wolf, joined by Professor Tarzan and our beautiful sponsor, Xiaomi, where you can enjoy a super fast and lag-free PUBG mobile experience on Xiaomi's powerful Redmi Note 10 5G. And what we saw was another powerful performance by 1802, who took the chicken dinner victory with, of course, there also 9 kills at the end of it, 24 points in total. But more importantly, what impresses me more is the consistency coming through from Costi on Excuse Me, who have been getting what now is 24 points for his team alone.
Yeah, and sometimes solo players, I don't know when he turned into that solo player situation, I should say, in that game. But there's a lot of skills that you can't see for someone who slowly enters zone. Yes, you may need to be blessed by the zone, but it's about even crawling into zone in a particular ridge line. Like, you need to think a lot. You need to have a lot of assessment of the landscape. But that goes without saying very, very soon. So as the scene progresses, as everyone improves, we will need to talk about certain points a little bit less, because one of those things that we repeat again and again would be trigger discipline. When it comes to macro play, I really vividly remember Arena 51, even in previous tournaments as well. They may open fire in a position that may cost themselves a lot more. When you've got rotations to make, you really need to think that through a little bit more.
Yeah, overall, as we do head through now in-game to game through, we're jumping straight in onto it. It's Miramar, the next map of the day. And the Desert Tunes here as we hit this up, Tarzan. We don't have, of course, the overall schedule, so if you are missing that, we can do a little bit of maths. Of course, Tarzan is better at maths than me. I have a history, I feel like, when we come on to PMCOs and we look back to the embarrassment, the shame of how bad I really am when it comes to adding numbers.
Oh, you know what? It's not really true. We've practiced, so we get better. And you know what?
Oh, we're better now.
We've got something.
I'm not so sure, Tarzan.
Hey, but you know what? Something to say this time round. We had our game yesterday from Impala to Prison, and now we have it in the opposite direction. So very similar, but actually very different when it comes to pacing, because that means those who touch the ground first will be less center compared to the other way around. Think about the other direction. You can hit maybe Hacienda, El Alza very early when people are still slowly traveling to Prison. So this actually changed the pacing of the game. It will be a little bit less skewed, because whoever's further down can touch the ground first. So we will have everyone more in the straight line very soon, but it will still have those questions to ask this time around. And for both lobbies, actually, I shouldn't say both lobbies, for both days, all 4 groups, Silent Wolf, we don't know. We don't have information for the northern half of the map.
And rightly so, that northern side is going to be fairly empty. That Zono is going to offer respite when it heads towards the main portion of Los Leones there. However, I would not be fooled. We had this last time, Los Leones in towards the center. It did not go towards Los Leones. However, we can start to predict how teams probably won't enter up there initially. But what we will see is teams heading around more towards, I think, the ridge lines, particularly towards the eastern side of Los Leones. That's a very strong position to be upholding, considering that you then can start to move into the city if in future shift it goes there.
Yeah, I think this is a very hard phase 1 to play, to say the least. I think it will be the same for the later circles, because if we look at the circle, guys, let's talk about this. If you want to go dead center, you need to think about how to play in the city. Which side of the city do you want to hold? Do you play the outskirts? Other than that, the power positions around the center belt is very hard to define. Yes, we've got Chumacera, we've got the church or whatnot, but if you can't reach there early enough, you'll be forced along that road that connects Chumacera and Los Leones, and either side of that road can be extremely empty, right? So if you can't enter that area, you may get funneled into the other bits. If you go to very south, close to those coastline, you may not have good enough map knowledge. If you need to go to Minas del Val, it may be the same case. So suddenly it will be a battle of map knowledge, knowing how to already set up that rotation plan before you enter an area to be punished and you are failing to possibly reset sometimes.
And I think this team on the screen right now really is a little bit of a concern for me. Arena 51 Esports, who have played so much when it comes to the UK competition. Yes, they never played into spring. They did just miss out again on PMCO there. But they played in, I believe, the Campus Championship. And they definitely, of course, played when it comes to the National Championship for UK. Obviously, they're here because they didn't get first place, but they didn't actually secure even what was dominance in the national championship, you could argue. And again, it feels like they're struggling, despite they are coming back with the same players, and despite the fact that their synergy and their overall team synergy, you could argue here, is actually going to be on the rise.
I think it's still going to be about momentum. Like there's so much that we don't know, but I love that mystery, right? Like, sometimes I get sent this DM to talk about, and people tell me, "Can you come in, maybe coach us a little bit? Can you, like tell me what to do in this situation?" Someone may tell me the backstories of, the backstabbing that can happen within a team. All those things, define so much of how that team's going to act, right? Like, so especially with these, mentioning PMNC that you did as well, small roster changes matters a lot. We talked about maybe those 1 or 2 key players, not just skill, but in the spirit, right? It's almost like me back in the day, like coaching, like it's those 1 or 2 people who can say the right thing at the right time that can help the team so much. And you know what else helps? Early car preference. I can't stress this enough, because it's also something that I wanted to see more on Sanhok, but we haven't seen it quite enough. But this time around, when you have a southern playing path in a southern circle, you really need to think about where you can find all those cars and to maneuver through those hills, and that is going to be such an important resource.
I've just got through the overall stats after what has been now 2 games played for the side of Group C and D, but actually 4 games played by Group A and B. Surprisingly, though enough, in 5th position right now, Tarzan, with 37 points out of all 32 teams, not just the own 2 groups that they're playing against Group C and D, but it's all 4 in total. Now, they could easily be, with another 2 consistent performances, eyeing themselves up towards Team Savage, who did finish out in top yesterday with 59 points. They're only now 22 away.
Yeah, I think can really challenge that. If we just do the quick maths there, they've got 37 points to 22, so they need a chicken dinner with 7 kills, and they can just tie up top. We're talking about just 1 game, but after all, like if I say that, to take that 1 win out of these 2 remaining games, it's not easy, right? But I think like when you've got that momentum coming in with the experience as well, can really challenge that top spot. And the 777 Esports is a team that I want to see them succeed. I think it's not just the experience, but it's the momentum from game 1. So sometimes people, when they've experienced how it felt to be up top in some games, and to come back in a little bit disappointing second game, sometimes that contrast can cause a little bit of a slump. But I don't want it to be the case. But this time around, it's not easy, because they are against in this possible early game skirmish.
Rightly so, we just talked about how dominant they were, 777. This is a very important fight for them to win, because in this situation, well, they are being pincered though, however, by you look at their split, Prada and Kosti, they're on the backside, Silly and also their Paula on the front. So although Sauron is defending in an advantage situation on the backside, 777, they already are trying their best to find out one. They have taken down Kosti, so that is what was required of them. Boss defending brilliantly in that 1v2 situation opens up a lot more advantages towards 777, and that is why you see trailing off for a new location.
You know what? And I also appreciate the sort of like not popping some tires, because you can see the retreat path is actually extremely hard to hold down. But this also demonstrate one thing, Highland Wolf, is how the hell did they got to that position without getting punished by 777 Esports? So 777 might be so tunneled onto like looking at the compound where they spotted some players that they did not defend that position initially. And now that they have the chance to strike, they realize they missed on some opportunity. But after all, it was one kill in their pocket. But these type of setup in some neutral positions has to come through very, very nicely and very tightly, how should I say, formulated. Otherwise, you're just missing your chance, and you can put yourself in huge danger in this like crazy open desert dunes of Miramar.
1802, they have found a position potentially against Risk as they will straight down, knock away the player of Wexa. So Risk, they do lose a second actually in total because, of course, 1802, they are clearly up to 2 kills overall. They will steal away the BB bus. And this is why, like, also, I love Miramar, purely just because of the BB bus. I mean, if we could add the buses inside of every map, that is like the update that I'm really looking for. Who needs all of this 1.5 nonsense? I just want the simpler things in life. Like I just want the simple BP bus.
I mean, like I actually love that. It's almost like there's something from your childhood times that like led you to this moment to show that affection, and I love it. What else do I love? That question that I asked before, like, this zone even popped, we talked about how tricky it is to find a spot there. No one's touching the Trimasera Church, but it doesn't matter because it will shift away from it once again. So it will be about, should I draw the midpoint of the circle to the very bottom of Los Leones? So you either need to decide and know how to play a little bit of city fights, I should say, or you need to know that type of hills to the south of Los Leones. And to be honest, if I get to choose, I wouldn't choose either of that because that's quite terrifying. But these teams may know better than I do. At least I want to see them having good scouting, and sometimes merging that scouting with some opening and claiming of strong positions.
But here's where I really find it interesting on Los Leones to hold down as a compound, or should I say a big compound, a city, because towards the western side, very intriguing, I always think, because you have those more tiered parts of hills leading up into the city itself. Yep. However, it is very difficult to hold. I'm interested to see if teams will be brave enough to hold that, and if so, how they will be able to hold that is also their One King Gaming get popped through and one on their journey out of Trimasera. Pling will stay alive, but not so much their comrade.
Oh, and that is second kill going to 777. I think, like, especially with them dropping around La Julera, like, I can't imagine them having the best loot, and unless they have the best luck. But to get those early kills actually would compensate that type of pacing in phase one, and they still got some distance to travel. But if they keep this type of aggression, if they can do it in a very smart and controlled way, I think they can come in to this third game, very nicely as well. And it seems like they're still playing with so much confidence.